we have errors folder in there. So now we've created our folders. We want to now start creating. We don't want just a simple text on our page. We actually wanted a layout on our page. So what do? We want to create a dashboard component that would be used to actually control the entire layout of our website. Okay, all the other pages will be loading inside the component and the dashboard itself. So I'll go into the layout. Since that is going to be used to lay out the entire site, I'll just go to the layouts folder, create a new file, and just name it dashboard. Okay, it can be any name, but dashboard.js, and then we'll create a boilerplate code inside this. Just make sure it's just an arrow function, and then delete the React import at the top. We don't need it on the various pages because it has already been imported through your index.js file. Okay, so you don't need that in here. Now, after creating the dashboard layout, let us simply say this is the dashboard. Okay, and we'll be using this dashboard as our main page. Then we would host other pages inside it. So when we come into the pages section, we have we'll create a new page called home.js, and then let us also create the array fce, and then delete the React import there. Then this is going to be our home page. The next thing is to create the sign-in. Is because I have actually planned to know the various pages I'll be using in this project. So just as you would also want to design if you want to design a site, you plan the site, know the various pages you'll be using in the page, in the web layouts. You just create them, but then you can also progressively create them as you move along the way as you design it. So we will be creating the sign in and sign up components here. So let me click on the components folder and then click on new file and say this is going to be signin.js. Then at the same place we'll create another one called signup.js. Now let's create the boilerplate for that. So we'll remove this. Then this is going to be our sign up. Okay, we'll later replace them with actual contents. Okay, so we have finished with the pages or components we want to use for this project. Now we have to create a route to move to these various pages. So first of all, let me kill this execution of my script and then install my libraries I needed for this routing. So I said we'll be installing some two libraries, the React Router DOM and then the bcrypt. So let's npm install React Router DOM. We can even sometimes do a space and then type the bcrypt js-react, so that after installing the React Router DOM, it would also install the bcrypt automatically along the way when that first one is done. Okay, you don't have to necessarily do one after the other, you can just chain them. So you do npm I, and then you can do something like this: npm I React Router DOM and then space bcrypt js-react. Okay, you can do those two options, and then it will install this. After it's done, then it will continue and install that. But since we have already installed this, let me remove this one here. then hit enter to install the bcrypt.js-react. It doesn't also mean that if you don't install them from the initial stages, you can install them afterwards. You can install them based on when you are adding something and you need a library, then you can put them in. Okay, so but then because I know I'll be using that, I want to install all those libraries ahead of time. Good. So all my libraries are installed. Now let me run the project again. I can use the up arrow key and move all the way to the start and then hit on enter to start the project. After doing that, I need to, whilst the project is starting, I have to come in here. So let me go to the app.js. This is where we'll be creating our routing, because this is going to become our root component for all our pages. That is where all our pages will be channeled through to. So let us first of all go in here and then import some few libraries in here. So we want to import this from the React router DOM. Okay, so what are we importing here? Create browser router. We also import the create routes from elements. Okay, create routes from elements, and then we also want to import the route itself, and then we want to import the router provider. Okay, so these are the ones we want to import here first, and then we'll go and import either nav link or link at the other pages, other sections of the page, especially when we go to the dashboard. That's where we'll be hosting the links, so we'll call them there. So now once we are done with this, let's create a function at the top here. So we say const router equals, then create browser router, and then we'll say create routes from elements. We have different ways of defining this routes. Okay, so there's one way, and then we would set up our route. So the main root route, okay, which would go with this path, the / and then this would become the parent route. Okay, but when the parent route loads, what page do you want it to execute? So we'll say the element we want it to load would be a component, because we are loading it from an element, so we are loading a component. So that's going to be the dashboard, and you can see it will have to also import that. So I will import that here. So this becomes our main route to the project. Okay, let me format it to our main route to the entire project. Then we would have the child routes inside it. So the child route, especially the first page we want to load in this dashboard, because the dashboard is just a layout, it's not just a complete page, it's a layout. So the page we want to load inside it when the dashboard loads is going to be our index page. Okay, and the element you want to load as that index is what you pass in here, and that element is what I'm going to call the sign in, which I have to also import. Okay, so anytime it's, and I have to self close it, anytime the the dashboard loads, we want to enforce a user login first. Before, we can also say it should load the home page only if it checks to make sure that the user has actually logged in. So if the user is not logged in, it should redirect the user. Then we would also create another route. We need all the routes here in order for it to be mapped. Then we can use the links to navigate through them. So the next one would have a path, and the path is going to be sign, okay, sign out. So sorry, that is going to be sign up. sign up. We are calling it sign up, so let's use that to match with what the component we have created. Then this is going to be sign up component. There's it. So we would also import that, and then we self close this. And then we also have one route called the path is the home, so that is the home, and then the element is going to be the home component, right? So you also import that from the pages folder, and then you self close that. So by doing this, we have our routes set up, so it means with a link we can navigate to all these pages. But in order to make this work, we have to pass this to the router provider itself, this router provider, before it can actually function. So let us first of all erase this h1 and then put that in there as a component. So router provider, and the router we want to pass is this router we have created here, this one. So we just pass the router in, and automatically is going to run this router provider anytime the out component is mounted. It's loaded. So now we have the routes, and the first page is going to load is going to be our dashboard. We have the dashboard here, but then we have not created the various links to the pages. So it means that with this we can be able to also see our dashboard loaded in here. Okay, good, that looks promising. But then let us create our navigations in order to be able to move through the various pages. So at the top here we want to create a class, so we will target it in style. So the class name here is going to be dashboard. It can also be any name, and then we'll create our nav element. In this navigation element, we want to import the nav link. Okay, so it's coming from the React router DOM. So when we click on that, it will import it at the top, and then we have the two props that would navigate this particular page to another page, right? So we want to navigate to the sign in page. Okay, the next link we want to create is a nav link to, then we have the sign up, and that is also going to be linked to the sign up page. So this has been created. We have the navigation now, but since this is the dashboard, and the dashboard must also be able to display child elements, okay, all the child elements within the dashboard, because we say the dashboard is a layout. So within the dashboard, in order to be able to put in other pages, this is what we have to do. We have to call an outlet component, which we also need to import from the React router DOM, and then this would help to actually display other pages we are trying to click on here, from here, and then get that displayed here. So when we go back to the page, we can see our links here, and then currently you can see the sign in is what is showing, the component is what is showing. So when I click on sign up, it takes me to the sign up, and it's loading these components inside the outlet. When I go back to sign in that order, we don't have the home here. The home would only be redirected to when we sign in. So let's go into the sign in page, the sign up page, and then set up the sign up page. In the sign up page, we want to create a form, and this form is what would use to actually navigate through, submit user details into the database. So the first thing we would do is to create a heading. Let's assign a class to this, okay, for styling. So we'll say class name is going to be sign up, and then in here we have a heading h1